everybody, how are you today? I'm fine, and you? I'm perfect today. There is some information that I need to tell you today. We are going to talk about countable and uncountable nouns. What is the difference between this? Well, things that we can pluralize, that you can make them plural, are countable. There are nouns that we cannot pluralize. But there are some rules that you need to know about this, right? Take a look. Okay, let's practice. Countable nouns are words that we can pluralize. For example, car, cars, child, children, man, men, house, houses. And uncountable nouns are words that we can't pluralize. For example, sugar, it's like that. We cannot pluralize the word. Money, coffee, information. And I'm going to use today the word a lot of. A lot of expresses quantity. A lot of people in Pino Suarez subway, right? It's not just 2 or 3 people, a lot of people. For example, I can have here, there are a lot of children in my school. There are a lot of children in my school. There are a lot of houses in Mexico City. There are a lot of houses. There are a lot of houses in the city. Houses is plural too, then I can use are. But in singular cases, I can use is, right? There is a lot of sugar in my coffee. I don't like this. There is a lot of money in the bank. There is a lot of money in the bank. So, my expression, a lot of, is going to help me for countable and uncountable nouns. Okay, we are going to talk about a few and a little. These words are the opposite of a lot of. For example, there are a few houses, 2 or 3. There are a few houses in this town. Or I use there is a little information about the accident. There is a little information about the accident. So, a little will be used for uncountable nouns. There is a little sugar. There is a little money. There is a little coffee. There is a little information. And I'm going to use a few for expressing decreasing the quantity, right? So there are a few houses, there are a few cars, there are a few men, there are a few children, right? So when we use a few or a little, we are decreasing the quantity. Okay, now we have another 2 words. We have many and much. In the most of the cases, we are going to use many for questions. For example, how many cars do you have? How many men does the company need for the job? How many men does the company need for the job? We are going to use many for countable nouns. And we are going to use much for uncountable. Much sugar, much money, much coffee, much information. How much money does David need for the trip? How much money does David need for the trip? How much information do you have about the accident? How much information do you have about the accident? Right? So remember, much, many. Much for uncountable nouns, many for countable nouns, and in the most of the cases, these words will be used in questions. And finally, we have some and any. Well, the same case. We're going to use some and any both with countable and uncountable, right? The only difference is that we will use some in the most of the cases in affirmative form and any for negative and questions. For example, there are some children beside the house. 3 or 4. There are some children beside the house. If I use the negative form, I need to use there are not any children beside the house. You are crazy. There are not any children beside the house. So, no children, right? And if you want to make a question, one more time, are there any children beside the house? Are there any children beside the house? Then I will use, in this case, any one more time and some one more time. For example, there is some sugar in the cup. No? Enough, right? There is some sugar in the cup. There is not any sugar in the cup. Mama, let's go to the store. There is no sugar in the cup. And if you want to make a question, is there any sugar in the cup? Is there any sugar in the cup? So, do you have any sugar? Do you have any sugar? So we can use it even with simple present or using there is or there are.